A Chinese soldier then attacks, after which the Indian soldiers surround him and a violent skirmish ensues.
In June 2020, 20 Indian soldiers were killed in Galwan Valley clash, the deadliest confrontation between India and China in over 4 decades. The country was outraged and India responded with some of its toughest economic measures ever. The government banned 300 plus Chinese apps including TikTok and PUBG, introduced Press Note 3 requiring the government approval for any investment from countries sharing a land border with India, and launched Atmanirbhar Bharat with a clear message: India would reduce its dependence on China. But that wasn't the full story. China never really left India. It simply changed its strategy. While millions celebrated deleting Chinese apps, China quietly strengthened its grip on the industries that keep India's economy running. The numbers tell a different story. Instead of falling, trade between India and China has continued to grow. It is now worth between $118 billion and $151 billion, making China India's largest trading partner once again. At the same time, India's trade deficit with China has risen to somewhere between $85 billion and $112 billion, one of the highest ever. So here's the question. How did a country India tried to economically distance itself became even more deeply embedded in India's future? This is the story of how China is winning without crossing India's border. Let's start with an industry India is proud of: pharmaceuticals. India is known as the pharmacy of the world, exporting affordable generic medicines to over 200 countries, including the United States, Europe, and Africa. But there's a hidden reality behind this success. Every medicine begins with an active pharmaceutical ingredient, the API, which is the core chemical that makes the drug work. And this is where India's biggest vulnerability lies. According to the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers, India imports around $4.35 billion worth of bulk drugs and intermediaries every year, and 73.7% of those imports come from China. The dependence is even more alarming for life-saving antibiotics. For medicines such as penicillin, amoxicillin, and cephalosporins, India depends on China for up to 90% of its key raw materials. So why doesn't India simply manufacture these APIs at home? The answer is economics. Backed by heavy government subsidies, lower power costs, and large-scale manufacturing, Chinese APIs are 35% to 40% cheaper than those produced in India. Watch my latest video on China 2.0 to know more. The link is in the description and pinned comments. For most Indian pharmaceutical companies, competing on price is simply not viable. This creates a serious strategic risk. Industry experts warn that if China were to stop exporting even a single critical chemical like 6-APA, the building block for many common antibiotics, India's antibiotic production could be severely disrupted within weeks. That is the paradox. India is one of the world's largest medicine exporters, yet a large part of its pharmaceutical industry still depends on the country it considers its biggest strategic rival. But it's not just healthcare, it's the future of how we move. Walk to any major automobile showroom in India today and you will hear massive pictures about made in India electric vehicles, high-tech hybrids, and advanced smart cars. The government has pushed hard to localize auto component manufacturing through initiatives like the PLI scheme, or the Production Linked Incentive Scheme for automobile and auto components industry. Yet the numbers tell a different story. India's auto component trade surplus has once again turned into a deficit. In a single fiscal year, India imported over $9.1 billion worth of auto components from China, making it India's largest supplier of automotive parts. And the reason? Today's cars are no longer just mechanical. They're rolling computers packed with semiconductors, sensors, display cameras, infotainment systems, and advanced driver assistance system, many of which come from China. And then there are batteries. According to the International Energy Agency, the IEA, China makes over 50% of the world's EVs, 75% plus of lithium-ion battery cells, and processes 60 to 70% of the world's lithium, and refines over 90% of battery-grade graphite. So, while India is rapidly expanding its EV ecosystem, a significant share of every electric vehicle's value, from battery cells to the critical electronic components, still flows back into the Chinese supply chain. For years, years, India used Press Note 3 to keep Chinese investments under strict government approval. Press Note 3 mandates government approval for any investment from the countries sharing a land border with India. Though it slowed Chinese investments, it didn't stop Chinese goods from entering India. Then came a new challenge. As global companies tried to shift manufacturing from China to India under the China Plus One strategy, they faced a problem. Setting up modern factories still required Chinese machinery, engineers, and technical expertise. But India's approval process made this difficult. So, India changed its approach. The Union Cabinet allowed non-controlling investments of up to 10% from neighboring countries through the automatic route, making it easier for businesses to invest and manufacture in India. Even India's top diplomats have said that working more closely with China is necessary to strengthen India's manufacturing. The message was clear. India couldn't simply cut China out. To build more in India, it still needed Chinese capital, technology, and machinery. This brings us to the final tier of the silent invasion, consumer dominance. Yes, we banned TikTok, but look around your living room. Chinese smartphone giants like Xiaomi, Vivo, and Oppo still command the lion's share of the Indian smartphone segment. Even when these companies face intense scrutiny, tax rates, and government pressure, they adapt. But long before they started printing Made in India on their boxes, Chinese manufacturers pulled off one of the greatest psychological marketing tricks in the history. Around 2013, they quietly began phasing out the infamous Made in China label, replacing it with Made in PRC, standing for the People's Republic of China. They knew the old label carried a cheap quality stigma, and more importantly, using PRC was a genius camouflage tactic. After the 2020 border clashes, when anti-China boycott movement spiked in India, this acronym brought them a massive advantage. The average shopper scanning a retail shelf didn't immediately recognize what PRC meant, allowing Chinese goods to bypass emotional boycotts and slide rightly into Indian homes completely undetected. Today, they have taken that camouflage a step further. They partner with Indian local distributors, set up massive assembly plants, and label their boxes with a proud, patriotic stamp, Made in India. But look closer. It's assembled in India, but the high-value components, the microprocessors, the advanced displays, the camera sensors are imported directly from China. They didn't lose the Indian market, they just localized the assembly line to bypass tariffs and political anger. The geopolitical standoff at the line of actual control remains incredibly tense. On a diplomatic and military level, India and China are fierce rivals, but on an economic level, they are locked in an inescapable embrace. India's ambition to become a global manufacturing superpower is completely valid and necessary. But the ultimate irony is that to build an alternative to China, India must temporarily rely on China for the machinery, the electronics, the components, and the raw chemical ingredients to build it. Banning apps was the easy part. Decoupling an entire nation's integrated supply chain is a completely different kind of war. China didn't need to cross India's borders to establish economic dominance. It simply became too efficient, too cheap, and too deeply embedded to be easily replaced. What do you think? Is India's new strategy of easing restrictions on Chinese investments a smart economic move or a dangerous gamble? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and hit subscribe for more deep dives. I'm Dr. Mahalakshmi, and I'll see you in the next one.